Hello and welcome back to the channel and to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which I picked up a couple of days ago for the PS5. And honestly, the main reason for that is that it is going to get full VR support. It's going to be a free add-on, and that is supposedly coming in 2026. There's no specific date yet. I'd hope to see something on State of Play that gave a little bit more detail. I've been following lots of different threads and forums because I just can't wait to jump into this in the headset. And there's talk of early 2026. We are currently in March, so hopefully it's going to land soon. No pun intended. Hard copies of the game are, as you can imagine, quite hard to come by, as are pre-owned ones where you can save yourself some money. But I was very fortunate. My wonderful partner picked one up for me, as I say, a couple of days ago. So I am going to be working through the career so that I can become familiar with all the different mechanics of the aircraft. But as you can see here, there are also things that you can easily jump straight into. So as well as being a kind of very detailed simulator to keep the kind of loyal audience satisfied, there's also what you could consider kind of more gaming elements as well. So we're currently in a photo mode where we were able to jump straight into a helicopter, which we're not doing a very good job of flying. So there's me, or my character should I say, currently floating around in a helicopter over the Great Pyramids of Egypt. As you can see, graphically, it's really impressive. You've got some incredible lighting textures there. As you can imagine, as you get lower to the ground, you lose some of that detail. But I haven't experienced anything like this, or the level of detail, certainly within a VR environment, and so I'm very excited for that. I think in terms of comparisons, we obviously have to think of Gran Turismo, in that that's a racing sim where the focus is on realism and just sheer amounts of content. And having then played that within the headset, it just added a completely different layer to the game. This, if we go back to the main menu, has got a number of different options. So we were in world photographer mode there, where we can choose either from the globe itself, or as you can see here, from some preset iconic landmarks where we have a free flight around it. So you've got kind of airports of the specific, different landscapes, mega structures. There's just all kinds of different things. And this is just the core. This isn't the deluxe version. This is the core game. So we've got world photographer. I'm very eager to jump into a hot air balloon and just float around there. We've got activities such as the Red Bull even racing, free flights where you can probably, most people are doing exactly what I did, and that's to find your home on the map and try and fly over it, or to look at a holiday destination and the airport there and do some takeoffs and landings. I've not actually delved into the marketplace at all yet. We'll have a look. So there are some what look like micro purchases. So I've got the standard edition. So it looks like there's some different aircraft and things that we can add in. World City updates. I don't know what kind of costs we're looking at here. So let's have a look. So it looks like there's some kind of in-game currency that we can purchase. So I'm not too worried about getting the deluxe edition just yet, because there seems plenty enough scope within the core game itself. And I am also going to be working through the career mode. What I would say, so just generally, as I say, I've only really played for about an hour, so I can't give you any kind of in-depth review, and I'm sure there are plenty of other videos out there that do that. There's all types of different content where people are actually flying chartered flight paths in real time. I think it's wonderful that it's going to appeal to so many different audiences, and that particularly in VR, if you can just imagine being in a hot air balloon flying over the savannah with all the wildlife around, that's going to be absolutely incredible. Gameplay itself, as I say, you can kind of jump in without going through the tutorials, but there are some different combinations of button presses that I wouldn't really know without looking at the control mapping. Also, if you press them in the wrong order, which I did, I managed to somehow press a combination of two different keys that turned my DualSense controller from being operational on the thumbstick to then tilting the controller itself, which is a nice little addition, but honestly I find it really difficult to control. The other thing I would mention is, as you've probably seen as I'm talking, is the load times are quite lengthy in this game. There we go. So yeah, the load times, even in between the different kind of what would you call them, missions, you got to get your flight certification. Be prepared for quite a lot of load times in between each one. I was surprised that the game itself was around about 8 gig. So in terms of getting it onto your PS5 and being able to play it fairly quickly, that's really good, in that you don't have to wait hours and hours and hours. They're not kind of, the load times aren't that intrusive that I think it's affects the gameplay. And I can understand that this is going to be a really demanding title, in that there's lots of optimization for PCs and things for people wanting to run this game. The beauty of the console editions means that you can just literally pick up and play them. So I think it's an acceptable trade-off. In terms of complexity, it does look like there's going to be a learning curve. So the tutorials are quite good at guiding you through each of the steps. And hopefully that means that you develop some kind of muscle memory as to how to best operate each of the aircraft once we get to the more complex things. So I've worked through, I think, about half of the missions, so to speak, for the basic pilot's license, and it's fairly forgiving. The way it works there is if you don't do it properly, then it will kind of just reset. It'll say that you put your aircraft in a dangerous position, which I've heard quite a lot of times, believe me, and then you get prompted to try again. So it is kind of, there is a learning curve there. You have to be quite delicate with the controls, and yeah, the DualSense does a pretty good job, and I would probably need to write down some of the different button combinations. You can either have button presses, or you can change to a cursor mode, where there's a couple of things on the cockpit itself. So you've got your yoke and your choke, things like that you can manually control. I've need to find out what works best for me, I've got to say, at the moment. I did look at the flight sticks as well. So as far as I can see, there's only one at the moment that's guaranteed to work out of the box natively with the PS5, and that is the Flightmaster HOTUS 4. At the moment, you can't pick one up anywhere. They're out of stock everywhere, and so that's kind of artificially pushed the prices up. So on Thrustmaster's website itself, the price to around about $79.99, which I think is probably fairly reasonable in the grand scheme of things, but you can't buy them directly from the manufacturer, and your usual kind of sources such as Amazon, Argos, whatnot, are completely sold out. So there's obviously a lot of flight simulator buffs out there that are either doing it because they really enjoy the kind of core game and the realism, or possibly, and I would guess more so, is that people are getting geared up for when this drops on VR, because I would imagine then that demand is going to pick up substantially. I would hope that that also means that the PSVR 2 headsets sell. They're obviously further into the life cycle, so it'd be easier to pick one up second hand. I did manage to do that at Christmas for a very reasonable price, and picked up some of the AAA games, again at reasonable prices, because they were already some way into the life cycle of the game. So by that I mean your Resident Evil series, where or the more recent ones I should say, where the VR support is free. And I went back to having that wow moment in VR, even though I've played the Quest 3 quite a lot. Hitman World of Assassination, sandboxes with an incredible amount of detail where you can just get lost in them. Excellent value for money, although there's an extra small fee to pay for the VR support. And we already mentioned Gran Turismo being a racing sim. If you can pick yourself up a second-hand wheel and a bit of a rig, then again that just adds to that level of immersion. So I'm not too worried about going ahead and paying over the odds for a flight stick at the moment. I will hang fire because we don't know when VR support's going to drop. We don't know whether they'll be supported. So yes, you can use a wheel for Gran Turismo, but as I say, that didn't get the VR support from the outset, I don't think. I think it was later on when the PSVR 2 released. And also, I should mention No Man's Sky. That I picked that up on sale, and for the asking price, just the sheer scope of that is also incredible. And that for me is where the PSVR 2 adds some value. Before I pick one up, I was kind of thinking, okay, what's this going to add that I can't get from the Quest? So I've got the Quest 3. That is an incredible device for what it is, for the price point. There was increasingly kind of impressive games being released, which then kind of dropped off a little bit again. So I picked up Batman Arkham Origins. Was it Origins? The Batman VR, we'll call it, which was good. Metro Exodus. And so, yeah, when I was looking at the PSVR 2, lots of forums saying Sony don't support it. The games library is not very good. And in some ways, I would kind of agree. Sometimes the PSVR 2 releases are a bit of an afterthought, but we already mentioned some AAA games there. And I think with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 being a PS5 exclusive, I think for about 12 months or so, and having that VR support, if that's the only way you can play this game in VR without spending money on an expensive PC setup, then I think that's really going to then push that headset. Hopefully that brings more demand and will mean that the headset gets better support from Sony. So it would be a win-win all around. This video, as I say, is not meant to be a review. It's first impressions. It's talking about what this could then lead into. I did kind of briefly talk through some of the controls. There's some nice little touches in that the preset is for the co-pilot's audio to come through the controller itself. There's some haptic feedback on the triggers. I think really the main selling point for this is just going to be the sheer scope and the attention to detail. So there's any number of aircraft. There's a good mixture of different things that you can do. So if you're a hardcore kind of flight simulator fan, then you've got that. I've seen videos of people running flights in real time from real life airports, and then by kind of, for want of a better phrase, gamifying some of the elements, then you're going to reach a wider audience as well, particularly on console, because with a console, not everybody's going to have kind of 3 screens and different flight sticks and things like that. You want to be able to just really pick up a game and play it from the outset without having to optimize lots of things and not having to have a great deal of knowledge. So for me, that really does feel like it's going to appeal to a wide audience. I've certainly never played the flight simulator games before. I was going to wait until the VR version definitely landed, no pun intended, but then I thought, well, actually, it's going to be a good game to play on a flat screen anyway, and we can become familiar with all the aircraft beforehand. So that is the plan. I hope to be uploading a video very soon, whenever that VR support lands. Obviously, you can't really capture it on a video, the sense of scale and immersion. But I will, once I've played the game a little bit more, is give some more updated opinions. I won't be able to film this as a series as such, so whilst I can work through the different certifications, the loading screens are going to mean that there's going to be some editing required, which I'm not completely averse to, but as you've probably seen if you've looked at the rest of the channel, for now it's really just me playing games that I enjoy, capturing it in real time and getting it up to YouTube. So I'm not averse to a bit of editing. I might try and put something together, but then my channel even is very small. I'm hoping to grow it. There'll be plenty of other channels, I'm sure, that do a better job of reviewing the game itself. If you have any details of when you think the VR support might be added, do please add that into the comments, because as I say, I just can't wait, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. If you've played this game, what did you enjoy? What are the things that you would change? And more importantly, probably, what are your top hints and tips for me to get the most enjoyment out of the game possible? And last but by no means least, as always, hitting that subscribe button is free. It takes a second, and it does mean that the videos reach a wider audience. And with that, I'm going to get back to my pilot training, and I'll see you in future videos.